Ruben, I promote no nasty man, them off he dead. Giving him two dead to him chin. Enemy your friend, fake the funk, I put the junk to an end. Now who the rude boy want test the OG? I find his family to identify he. I bet you never thought I bust. Surprise, I'm a 45 oak head just like me dreads.
Test the champion sound, you're getting bucked down. Recognize the boot camp, click out of Bucktown. Gun thirsty little bastard, always blasted from the sacks of chocolate of mother casting. You say you're number one wicked selector. I say you and I wet ya. Keep the bull for a pull, this here trigger. Cause you don't wanna test me when I'm tipsy off the liquor like the punk they call McGirt. Got his feelings hurt. Showed his true colors, had to yank up his skirt. Now he's in misery, trying to cop a plea. To him head from gun clapper number 3. See, lick off a shot, you know, rider. Lick a shot, and up on fire.
Now everybody wanna be down, gone all around New York. Be talking, but we be stalking. In the darks when the dog starts barking, but in the day we weary of where you be walking.
Some very along with no take down people. They say about camel click and rest, I know you get done missing. Some very along with no take down people. They say black card scavenger rest, I know you getting done missing. Some very along with no take down people. If you're dead Smith and West the rest, I know you getting done missing.
Me nah sex, me rough like the wicked youth in me that.
Shalom, my brother. Peace.
Shalom. How are you?
All right. You know, I'm True Lizzy. I'm from the United States, of course. You know, East Coast,
That's
New
what's
York,
up.
Pennsylvania, New Jersey. You know.
That's what's up.
All right.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. They call you the Ravenous Bird. This is what I've been hearing. First time meeting you. Where you from? Where you from, my brother?
I was born in St. Louis,
St. Louis.
but grew up in Boston.
Oh, okay. You Yankee like me then.
Yeah, military family, so we've been around.
Military. Yep, I'm military too.
Yeah.
Military too. All right. Well, like I said, you know, I'm going to basically, you know, in here just to have like a peaceful discussion. You know what I'm saying? Not really.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Not really a debate type of thing. You know what I mean? I don't do debates no more anyway. Debates to me don't really provide enough. You know, it's the matter who convinces the audience to me.
Right.
But you know,
no, I appreciate you having me on. I mean, the Facebook is just a whole bunch of monkey business.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really get word across, or you know, have an intelligent conversation on Facebook. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, unfortunately, how we meet in this. I guess we didn't even have a formal, you know, introduction to each other. It was basically somebody was saying something, it blah, blah, put me in it, you know what I mean, et cetera, et cetera. You know
That's
what
how
I mean?
it is.
You know what I mean?
You know our people.
So tell me a few things about you. You know what I mean? I know you got you big time, right? You got your own platform.
No, I wouldn't say that. I'm still building. I'm still starting out.
Yeah, I'm same thing. Just same thing. You know what I mean? But tell me about you. I mean, what is your beliefs, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I'll tell you mine, and you know, we'll go from there. But like I said, we'll have a peaceful discussion.
Yeah. I've been I guess you call it the truth. I've been in it for years, decades, but I haven't been teaching publicly until 2017.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, you know, prior to that, mostly trying to finish school, get through school. Graduated from Boston University, went on to Hebrew College, went to Hebrew University in Jerusalem, got my master's, pursuing my PhD in Semitic studies and all that stuff.
Nice. You know, my father, he was a educated guy. He had a PhD. You know what I mean? Me, I'm just...
No, I don't have a PhD. I'm
No.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm just saying he has a PhD, so I'm familiar with like a lot of the college things.
Yeah.
You know, me, I've been in this for like about, say, 36 years. You know? 36 years. I did a lot of studies with like a lot of the older historians. They're going on now, but you know.
That's cool.
Me, I'm basically, as you can see, you know, the introduction, I'm like, yeah, only. I'm just basically only believe in, you know, Most
Yeah, we have
High.
a lot in common, man. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what you're gonna find out is that we really don't have a whole lot not in common.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I understand the Yah only Old Testament only doctrine.
Well, not so much Old Testament. It's just that I like to stay with, like, I would say the most Hebrew writings. You know what I mean? If it's a Hebrew orientated writer, you know,
Right.
I look at it, looking at consideration. I used to be probably into the New Testament. You know, like I said, I've been in this for 35 years as far as this side of things. But I started out, obviously, I was in the church when I was like a baby. You know what I'm saying? So I know how that, even how the, how would you say, the Christian persuasion is too. You know what I
Right.
mean? I've been a minister since 2000 and
Oh, you were in the
probably,
ministry.
yeah, I've been
Okay,
a
okay.
minister since about 2000,
What denomination were you in?
2002. At that time, I was Baptist. You know.
All right, all right. See, I got family also in the Baptist church.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then funny thing is, I have family line in this, I guess what you call the Church of God from like the 1800s. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm like the last of it. You know, I didn't get brought into this from that route, but coming to check my history out, that's where that came from. But,
Okay.
you know what I mean? But I had, you know, touchings in the Christian persuasion. I walked away from it, of course, but now 35 years, y'all only. You know what I mean? I
Yeah, I
mean,
was never really in the church. I mean, I have family in the church, but just dipping in and out. I was never really like really a church goer. But
yeah.
my my mother is half Jewish, so I have this mixed. You know, she's black, but she's got this Jewish side. So I've always been intrigued by that. So I did go to Hebrew school as a kid. I did have a bar mitzvah. I did pursue it later on, get a little bit heavier into like Judaism and whatnot.
Okay.
But I never found, you know, the real answers.
Yeah, no,
But
it's good. It's good. I can see that. I checked out one of your videos. I don't know whether it was your first or whatever. You like highly, you know, level on the language. That's a good thing. You know, what I mean, me, I'm like a baby in the language. You know, I ain't gonna lie. I'm more likely the type of person that would have somebody translate it for me, and then I would actually do, you know, the comprehension of it myself. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I, you know,
yeah. So that was the thing for me. I wanted to know how to read and speak this language. I didn't want to be able to rely on somebody's translation. Right? I want to be able to have direct contact with with the source.
mhm,
So I spent most of my years learning these languages: the Hebrew, the Aramaic, the Greek,
mhm,
anything that had to do with this book in the time period in which it was written. That's what I was about, and that's
mhm,
what my focus is in university was. You know, basically geared towards the culture and the language of the book because
mhm.
we both believe that these are our ancestors.
Oh yeah, no doubt,
So
no doubt.
it, it
And I don't actually, me personally, I don't actually go basis on this the how they say it. The Deuteronomy curses, you know, 28:60. I don't really base it off of that either. I base it off of just like having an understanding of these scriptures and being able to comprehend them. That's how I basically base it. You know what I mean? I'm not even a person that says, well, it's about color. You know what I mean? Because we all know that in truth, you know what I mean? That's Hebrew Israelite. You know, that's something that, you know what I mean? There's a lot of history behind it. You know what I mean? We ain't gonna get into it tonight, but there's a
no,
lot of
I
history
know what you.
behind it.
I agree with you. It's not about color,
Hmm.
but it is about a bloodline and a
Oh yeah,
people
definitely a bloodline and a
fit
people.
these who fit
Hmm.
these prophetic pronouncements and these description of curses. That it is about a bloodline.
Hmm.
So even though it's not exclusively black people or people that look black. It is
Hmm.
exclusive. It is exclusively about a bloodline. So
It's about a
yeah.
bloodline. Are you familiar with, like, I guess how they say it, they call them these camp organization? And one wears camps, the you know, I ain't gonna say it by
Oh
name. I
yeah.
mean, like the three
I
famous.
mean, when I was a kid back in the '90s, they used to have a they used to have a little office. I used to live in Brockton, Massachusetts. They had a little office down there. So I used to go to their little schools and listen to them. I met this guy named Moses. They called him Moses. And at the time, he was the leader of the One West, whatever you call it, and they were teaching that he was the reincarnation of Moses.
Reincarnation.
This is before they split up into all these different IUIC and all these other different groups. Before they split up, they was being led by a dude who taught that he was the reincarnation of Moses. I met this man, and so I was like, nah, this is not for me. So I have a long history with them. Some of them have since left, and I still keep up with them. Like they're in Syracuse and other places. They used to be there like way back, but when they had that false prophecy that 2000 whatever didn't come true, a lot of them broke away. So I still have friends who were once a part of it. Like the people who are in it now, I don't have no friends in there now, but the ones who left, I'm still cool with some of them.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's good. Me, I was brought up under the teachings of Dr. Ben. You ever heard of Dr. Ben?
Okay.
He died. Yeah, yes, that's right. I was one of his last students. You know, I mean, a lot of people.
I had all his books at one point.
Yeah, a lot of people, when I say that, they like to tend to turn around and say, "Oh, you going around with that Ethiopian Jew stuff?" And I'd be like, "No. I didn't learn that part from him. That part I didn't learn. What I learned from him was a lot of the historical stuff. You know, he did a lot of history searching and stuff. You know what I mean?"
Yeah, I had all his books at one point.
Yeah, I have mostly all of his too right now. You know, like I said, around the time
that orange book I had from the Nile, was it no, the history of the Black Jews? It's like an orange cover. I had that for years.
Yeah, I had to take all of his books and put them all in PDF now, because you know me with like these like books and stuff like that. As they get older, I guess like the paper or whatever, say you get lights or something like that. So I started putting them in PDF. But he was a good historian. You know what I mean? He's very good. Dr. Henry Clark, you heard of him too?
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, I'm familiar with his stuff. I'm not really so much with him all the way, but I'm familiar with him too. Met those couple.
No, I mean we had, in Boston we had the Afrocentric bookstores. I'd be in there getting all them books, Henry Clark and Sheikh Anta Diop, all of them. In my early years, I was reading all those men. Still wasn't really filling my cup, man. It wasn't. I mean, I understand. I appreciate how they reversed the whole whitewashing and the European influence on the Africa and the culture. They corrected the misinformation about the Egyptians and whatnot. But then they kind of went a little left for me. Like everything became African. Like everything. Like okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Everything. I mean, America is Africa. The Indians is Africa. Everything is everything. China was Africa. I mean, okay, all right, I get it.
I hate the fact that they came up with the name from what is the name Africanus when they started just naming it Africa. Ancient Quebec.
Yeah.
That became a problem. But like you exactly right. Anything that's got melanin, they started saying African.
So I was like, I got to keep searching.
Yeah. What else was I thinking about? Oh. Well, not to put you on the spot, because I'm sure you wasn't put on the spot with it. It's just that the way in that group was going, and somebody brought something to the attention. You know what I mean? Like the famous what was that verse? That verse, Isaiah
46:11.
Yeah, 46:11. Somebody said, "Well, this is the he is the Ravenous Bird that they was talking about." I mean, what's your stance on that?
Like I tell everyone who brings it up, I didn't come out and proclaim myself to be the Ravenous Bird. I do believe I am, but I let other people reach that conclusion on their own. Mm-hmm. And if you read that whole chapter, I know everyone thinks it's talking about Cyrus, but the name Cyrus is not mentioned in there. And actually, if you read the whole chapter from first verse all the way through, it talks about the complete destruction of ancient Babylon.
Right.
Preceding the coming of this bird. So the Ravenous Bird, whoever he is, if it's not me, fine, but he has to come after the destruction of ancient Babylon, which means he can't be Cyrus. Yeah. Because the ancient Babylonian Empire was never destroyed at any point during the Persian Empire.
What particular version would you usually use? I mean, I know like a lot of us is accustomed to like the Masoretic or the KJV version of things. What is your go to?
Well, I use every witness I can find. When it comes to the standard Hebrew text, you have to use the Masoretic text. You cannot ignore them, but you
That's true.
also have to be aware that there's problems with those texts. So
Oh
what
yeah.
you do is you compare them with other witnesses like the Septuagint. You compare them with the Samaritan Pentateuch. You compare them with the Dead Sea Scrolls. And when you find commonalities, that should give you a good idea of, okay, this is the original text. When you find differences, I basically have a rule that you just go with you know, uh, the witnesses that have the most attestation. So, we have our, I'm a firm believer that if we are the people of this book, we shouldn't be relying on other folks to tell us what it means or to even make copies of it or to translate it for us. We should have our own.
That is correct. That is correct. I
So,
agree with you absolutely on that.
so we have
Absolutely.
our own Torah. We have our own, and this is basically simply doing the diligence, doing the work that we're letting the enemy do when we should be doing ourselves. It's basically looking at these texts, comparing them, and reconstructing the manuscripts the way they should be, purifying them and getting rid of the mistakes. A lot of spelling mistakes, simple mistakes, errors that you will find in the Masoretic text that you don't see if you're looking at a translation. But if you
Right.
can read Hebrew and speak it, you can see where these mistakes are. But the good thing about the Jews is that they didn't correct these mistakes. They just put a little footnote on the margin of the page.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you have like a Stone's edition of the Masoretic text, you can look on the margin and see, okay, this is a spelling mistake. Okay, this word is wrong. But they didn't fix the body of the text. They just put these notes on the side.
Matter of fact,
So that's a great tool to use if you're trying to reconstruct and come up with a text that's doesn't have all these mistakes. So that's what we've done. Um, so I hope that answers your question. But I don't rely on just one witness. I
right.
use all of them: the Masoretic text, the Samaritan Pentateuch, the
Mm-hmm.
Septuagint, and the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Right. Matter of fact, not to put you on the spot or anything, but just to show the audience so the audience can see. You know what I mean? Because you had a good point. You know, like I do the same thing. I would use different versions and then try to iron this out. You know, even like I said, I'm not if probably 2% fluent in the actual Hebrew as you would be, but I got the Hebraics to the point where I rely mostly on that versus the language. But
That's good.
I mean, let me see if I can throw that. I'll probably just use like the standard Tanakh version online because there's no reason for us to show actual books. I take your word, you take my word. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's cool.
And
No
like I said,
problem.
this is not. I'm not trying to. This is a discussion. A lot of people they don't understand. Sometimes discussions is a better tool than debating because debating is
Yeah,
how that go. You know how that go.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we can speak comfortable. We can show. Let me see. Yeah. Let me get it out. Yeah. Isaiah
Okay.
46. What's that famous verse? 11. I call from the east a swift bird, from a distant land the man of my counsel. Yea, I spoke, I will also bring it, and I formed it, and I will also do it. Hearken to me, you stout hearted that are far from righteousness, which is key. At that time frame, these people were far from righteousness, and best to believe at this time frame, they're
Hmm.
just as far. Might be even further, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No argument there.
Yep. I have brought near my righteousness, it shall not go far, and my salvation shall not delay, and I will give salvation in Zion to Israel, my glory. I mean,
Come on.
hmm now, like you said, at first look, not knowing what's going on, not knowing what's really there, you would turn around and you would look at this and say, what is he talking? What is it saying here? What is it saying here? You know what I mean? This swift bird, Me personally, I run into it as Cyrus. You know what I mean? But you saying it's a little bit more in the future. Maybe give me
That's
some.
always been the Christian. That's always been the Christian and Jewish interpretation that it's Cyrus,
Mhm.
because who else would they think it to be? They would never think it would be a Negro from St. Louis, Missouri, or anybody, anywhere. But the point what I want to call to your attention is that in the first word, Kar Mamazrach Reit Ma'aretz Marachak. Okay, Cyrus was not from the Far East. On any map that you look at, the Persian
Mhm.
Empire did not include the Far East where the sun rises. So
Mhm.
this man, whoever he is not going to be coming from the parts of the ancient Persian Empire. He's coming from further east of the Persian Empire. Okay, and why does it say swift bird? The word gheit refers to a rapacious, ravenous bird, someone whose character is not, you know, uh, always hospitable. And that doesn't fit Cyrus either. Cyrus, if you read the biographies of Cyrus, you study the history of Cyrus. He was the
Mhm.
most generous, likable, kind, sweetest man you'll ever meet.
Mhm.
So Christian and Jews have simply inserted the name Cyrus here, ignoring the other verses before it, which talks about the destruction of ancient Babylon preceding the coming of this ravenous bird.
Oh, a
So
question, a quick question. I just want to ask you since you said that. I notice a lot of the denominations, no matter what it be, they kind of when they do say Cyrus, they pick it as one individual. See, I see it as Cyrus meaning like a particular leader or ruler at the time. You know what I mean? You end up getting like your Cyrus one, your Cyrus two. You know what I mean? But
yeah, you're right. There was more than one Cyrus, and the one that they're usually talking about, Cyrus the Great,
hmm
they want to pin him as the Messiah, and there's a problem with that because Cyrus was a hardcore pagan. He
oh yeah,
worshipped false gods.
of course.
Oh yeah.
hmm
So
I
it
believe
doesn't.
that absolutely. Think
Oh yeah.
about it.
If you all
See,
you got to do is look at his inscriptions. Go get the Cyrus cylinder. Go get
hmm
the Achaemenid royal text. You'll see he talks a lot about himself and what his beliefs were.
hmm
And he'll tell you himself he was a hardcore worshiper of Marduk, Menbel, the gods
Yes,
of the.
yes, 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 yes. That's one thing
So this,
I definitely remember that. You know
yeah.
what I
So this
mean?
is a problem if you're saying he is the Messiah that's prophesied to come, because our scriptures tell us that the Creator does not raise up prophets and messiahs from the heathen nations ever, never have.
Matter of fact, let me
So
go.
who
Let me.
who is the ravenous bird? He's just a man. Number one, just a man. That's what this verse says. A man.
Let me just.
But he can't be a he can't be a pagan.
Mhm.
You
Well,
know that doesn't make
let
any
me
sense.
let me go back a chapter, just a chapter, right?
Yeah.
And let's take a look at that because you made a good point. Let's go back and really look at that. Now, their audience has to keep in mind we're not like going against one another. We're just looking at something. We're gonna try to figure
Yeah.
this out. All right. All right. This is chapter 45. Let's see.
Yeah.
And you can help me out and put this in a exact, I guess, because this is from Isaiah. He's talking about a prophecy to come. Right. You can agree with that with me, right?
Yeah. When
It's
he
not.
wrote it
It's
in the 8th century, absolutely.
right. He's not like talking about like at that moment. You know what I mean? But there,
Right.
it says, "So said the." I hate to even say this word because when you say Lord is bell. But anyway, so said the Lord to his anointed one, to Cyrus, whose right hand I held to flatten nations before him. In the loins of kings I will loosen to open portals before him, and gates shall not be closed. All right?
Hmm.
I will go before you, and I will straighten out crooked paths. I will break portals of copper and cut off bars of iron. And I will give you treasures of darkness and riches hidden in secret places, in order that you know that I am the Lord who calls you by your name, the Holy One of Israel. Which is, kind of like,
Hmm.
what in the heck is going on here? And I agree with you. Cyrus is an Elamite, a Persian. He's a heathen, a pagan. Worship Marduk. I shouldn't say worship Marduk because that's
Oh, he
more like
did.
a
He
Babylon,
absolutely did.
right? Babylonian.
He worshipped Marduk and he worshipped Bel, his son. He was definitely a devotee of those two gods, a proud and very vocal devotee of those two gods. If you read the Cyrus cylinder, you'll see that there's no way this man could be the Messiah of the Creator that the scriptures talk about. What people don't do is they don't question the interpretations that have been given to them by the Christians and the Jews. This doesn't say Cyrus the Persian.
Right, it does not. You're exactly correct. That's why I remember in the beginning when I was saying, as far as the Cyrus thing, to me, that Cyrus thing gives me more inclusive, that meaning that it's some type of leader, ruler, or et cetera, et cetera. So we cannot
So to
actually
assume
say that.
it's the king of Persia is an assumption that hasn't been proven by this text. And number one, there's a strike that he's called the Messiah, Mashiach or Messiah in verse 1. And heathens don't get to be called that. I mean, I know the Yah only, or I don't want to say your Old Testament, but those guys always hammer the Christians about how can Jebus be the Messiah when no one poured oil on his head. Well, okay, that's a good point. Well, how can Cyrus be, the Persian be a Messiah when no one did that to him? And he's a heathen. So there's a problem. There's a methodological problem with saying that this is Cyrus the Great. That's simply a hand-me-down from Christianity and Judaism. Which I'm not knocking them. Who else would they think it'd be? They would never think it would be some futuristic person from black people. They just never do that. But the other thing here about this chapter, okay, we have a person who's called Cyrus. Okay, we need to find out what Cyrus means, because maybe it's more than just I just calling him Cyrus. What does that name mean? Does it have a meaning in Hebrew? Then you got to ask yourself, did Cyrus fulfill this chapter? Did Cyrus or did any Persian king named Cyrus fulfill the details of this chapter? The answer is no. Absolutely no.
Right. And I got a question too, which you made a point, like to say, what do we consider to be a Messiah really anyway? Like you said, with the oil, et cetera, stuff like that, right?
Right.
Now, this is obviously printed from a perspective of what they're saying. I mean, you would know more than I would know. Like it said the Lord to his anointed one. Now, what does that mean? I mean, me getting that, I don't usually fall into it like it's saying that he's been anointed with oil or anything. But I look at it as, the Most High, he could take a cup and make that cup be a tool, et cetera, you know what I mean, to do a job or whatever. Now, not saying that this situation and that is the same, but you know what I mean? He may have
Well, like
chose.
I said, I would say that term, Mashiach, Messiah, automatically excludes this person from being a heathen, pagan, idol worshiper.
Well, where do we actually, like, without finagling with the word, where do we actually get like a actual meaning of, how would you say, Messiah? What is a Messiah? Christians say Christ, but we say, like,
Well, the root
anointed or
mashach
holy.
just means to be smeared with something or covered with something. You could be mashach with a robe. Someone could come up beside you and throw a robe over you. You've been anointed. Or someone could come up and smear oil on your head. You've been anointed. So the word mashach just means to be rubbed or covered with something, and it's usually restricted to kings and priests of our people. This word isn't thrown around haphazardly for heathens that the Creator might use and just throw them away when he's done. This person is special. This person is someone who is favored by the Creator. And like I said, that if you read not just the first few verses, but the whole chapter, read the whole chapter and ask yourself, is there a Cyrus of the Persian period that fits these details? The answer is no. So this is either a false prophecy or it has not happened yet.
Okay.
And I know folks will say, well, it's a false, I went in university, we were all taught in theology class that this is second Isaiah, Deutero Isaiah, and this book was written in the not the 8th century, but the 6th century. This part from Isaiah chapter 40 on was written in the 6th century by not the prophet, but by some guy claiming or pretending to be him, because he had set his hopes on Cyrus the Great doing these things in this chapter. He believed he was anticipating and hoping that Cyrus the Great would do these things, but it never happened. So what we were taught in school is that this is a false prediction, just wishful thinking on the part of a 6th century writer, who then inserted this into the prophet's book, and ever since then people have been none the wiser. That's what we were taught in school. That's what all the major universities will teach.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting, because that's not the first time I heard it. I think I was actually on a discussion before. Well, he didn't. I said the same thing what you said, tutorial Isaiah, and this guy said try to something like that, but whatever. And he was saying that this was not at the same, I guess, timeline as the original, first few chapters.
They call it Deutero or second Isaiah.
But and I had asked him, I said, so this is basically, we can't safely say that this is the coming from the scroll of Isaiah, being that if that's true.
I don't believe it's true. I mean, the Dead Sea Scrolls have a complete manuscript which includes these chapters. There's no evidence. There's nothing but assumption on the part of people who, like I said, thought that this is talking about Cyrus the Great. Didn't happen. Therefore, it must be a 6th century writer who was just hoping that it would, hoping for the best, and it didn't happen. And so in theology school or wherever you go, if the book of Isaiah is taught, that's what you're going to hear. This chapter is an unfulfilled prophecy. Basically, the whole, you might as well just throw it away.
What you saying by that, I would have to say yes. So that would probably mean, like, not only that, any of the, I guess what they say, some of the prophecies that supposedly came after that probably was all add-ons too. And I have said that several times, especially when you go into like Daniel, which is weird. Masoretic text, you get different versions that don't fit, and then sometimes they do fit. You know what I mean? So
yeah. See, I cut through all that because the Jews have their own order of books, and the reason why is not always clear. Why books are in a certain order? Why is Daniel in the Ketuvim section as opposed to the Nevi'im section? I mean, I don't think that's them trying to say that this book is not necessarily legit. But I cut through all that just by learning the language and just looking at the manuscript and learning the language. And if you know the language and you look at it, okay, there is 6th century Aramaic in it. People talk about, well, there's words in there that don't come from the 6th century. But okay, well, that doesn't mean that the original manuscript wasn't written then. It simply was, these manuscripts were hand copied. So over time, you might have an update or someone put a word in there that's more recent to their time. It doesn't negate the book as being from the 6th century. And I've seen every argument. I've seen every argument that tries to jettison Daniel from the Bible, and they don't convince me at all. We can have different interpretations, but to say that this book was written in the 2nd century BC is, for me, it's out of question. I don't entertain that at all. Not from what I know. I mean, if folks want to believe that, and okay, I'm not going to argue with folk, but most of the folks who have that opinion can't read the manuscripts. How are you going to have an opinion on a book you can't even read? You can't. I listen to scholars who do read, who can read, and their arguments have holes like Swiss cheese. So why would I listen to someone who can't even read? So but for me, Isaiah is a complete manuscript. Daniel is a complete manuscript. I don't chop these up and say, well, this doesn't belong. Nah, we have too much evidence that says it does.
Right. Now, a question, and this one might go back. What do you consider, like, if the earlier parts of the chapter, like Isaiah 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to like maybe 38, 39, Do you say that's also add on or
No, I
twisted?
don't believe there's any add-on. I believe the whole book of Isaiah is from the prophet,
All right. But I'm
from the
saying
first chapter to the last chapter. I don't think there's any
what
second
part?
or
In other
third
words, what part?
editions.
What part do you say would be the insert part? I mean, like so
I don't
this.
I don't believe there's an insert. I'm saying that's what the conventional wisdom is teaching in the universities. They believe that there's an insert. They
Uh,
believe from
uh,
chapter 40. They believe from chapter 40 on is an insert, not
yeah,
from the hand of the original prophet. I don't believe that.
yeah. Me, I go with it like it's like from 42 to maybe the latter 66. More is like they're all like songs, poems,
Yeah,
etc.,
there's
etc.
also another theory of a third Isaiah from one of those later chapters. I think it's chapter 50,
Hmm. Yeah.
53 on. But
Hmm.
I don't, these are just speculations on top of speculations
Yeah,
without
because of
any
the because of
shred
the
of
because of the because of the
concrete proof.
because of the language. I guess you call it the transliteration. It's like you know how that goes when you get transliteration in there. They're gonna like.
No, it's really not even so much the language; it's the contents.
Mhm.
The whole theme of the book changes when you get to chapter 40 and you get to later chapters. The whole flavor of the book changes. So they think that indicates a different author or multiple authors.
Well, that's what the
Like,
schools. That's what the schools say. That's what
yeah,
they.
they go by the content, not so much the language. But how come the book in the first 30 some odd chapters is more historical and more, matter of fact, and then when you get to chapter 40, it's all about this, voice in the wilderness and this Cyrus guy, and then in the later chapters, this new heaven. But they think that those are signposts or keys of multiple authors at different times, not one person who wrote this book in the 8th century BCE, which is what I believe. I believe it's one author, one book from start to finish. I don't believe there's any inserts,
Yeah,
and
me
that makes
too. Me
me
too. Me
that puts
too.
me in the minority. I don't care, but scholars will not accept that this is from the hand of one author
Yeah, me
based
too.
on
That's
that.
how I look. I look at that way. I look at it as one author to one great scroll. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
mean, as far as where you can go and match it up with backstories. You know what I mean?
right.
It kind of stays within the backstories, and then it gets to a certain point. Like I said, I look at it as more of poetic, uh, dynamic songwriting, where there's no longer so much a backstories involved, and not even as much prophecy involved. You know what I mean? It's more like how a prophet does. You know, like you're familiar with like Micah, same way. He's like all over the place, but he's talking in such a Hebraic type of style. I know you understand what I'm saying, Hebraic versus the language, but like a certain type of slang where you would have to actually get into his mind to understand what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? Perhaps maybe those scholars, they're looking at that from their heart. Their heart might be looking for a certain character or such and such to come or et cetera, et cetera. So their mind is on that. You know what I mean? But like,
In scholarship, it's all critical. Their default position is that there are no miracles, there is no God, and there is no prophets predicting future events. That's
mhm,
their default stance. So when they analyze these texts and try to make sense of them,
mhm,
that's the axe that's grinding. That's the axe that they're grinding. So you have to be aware of that. And that's why I said we as a people have to step up to the plate and become educated enough so we can read these manuscripts on our own without their influence. Because if you don't
absolutely.
know the language, all you're getting is a watered down version of this book from somebody
Mm-hmm.
else.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't
Call
know what a book
it
says if you can't read it. You can't really know what this guy's talking about if you have a translation made by somebody else who already has access to grind. That's
heathen
why
wonder.
the King James version is so dangerous, because it was made by Christians. So of course you're going to see all through it, all through the King. I call it the Queen James version. You're going to see all through it tiltings or leanings towards Christian doctrine, all from cover to cover. It was made by Christians. Of course it has that. It would be
Mm-hmm.
stupid to think that they did not, you know, lean or massage their translation to fit their doctrine. Of course they
Yeah,
did.
manipulation. I used to say it to him like Saint Jerome did it. Saint Jerome did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we need to get rid of these translations and learn how to read the source language. And then we won't have these problems. A lot of the confusion in our community with all these different doctrines and whatnot, because folks don't know how to read and they don't want to learn. You know, people been in this truth for decades, and it have never occurred to them. Well, you spend all this time on this stuff. Why don't you spend a little time every day learning how to read? I mean, I'm not trying to put people. You know, I do that to bait folks into arguments, but you know, in my heart of hearts, I'm really trying to reach out to folks and say, how are you calling yourself a Hebrew and you don't want to learn how to read Hebrew? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, while I have you,
lazy. People are just
here,
lazy and they want to just take the easy road. And that's why we have the mess that we're in.
While I have you here, I'm going to go almost like it's nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you.
Okay.
I want to go all the way to almost like left field.
All right.
And when I say left field, it's because certain things that I've been noticing through social media and like sometimes out in the streets or whatever, that, you know, the different denominations, the different persuasions, they are famous at saying. And maybe from your perspective, let me hear from your perspective, and then I'll say mine afterwards. That you know, I mean, I don't want to take all the commentary. I don't usually like to even look at any of your commentary. Not so much about the first verse. The first verse is common. It's like a scroll. The vision of Isaiah, son of Amos, while he saw concerning Judah, Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, Hezekiah, kings of Judah. Let's put that on the side. Put that on the side. The thing what gets me is this part. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. Children I have raised and exalted, yet they have rebelled against me. Ain't that true? Ain't that true? All right. And an ox knows his owner, and a donkey his master's crib. Israel does not know. My people does not consider. And if that ain't 1,000% on, Israel do not know. They do not know. All right. Woe to a sinful nation.
And that only fits one people.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Woe to a sinful nation, a people heavy with iniquity, evil-doing seed, corrupt children. They forsook the Lord. They provoked the Holy One of Israel. They drew backwards. Right? Why are you beating when you still continue to rebel? Question mark. Every head is afflicted with illness and every heart with malaise. I want you to one day break that word down for me. You know, so I'm sure you get the Hebrew meaning of that. But anyway, from the sole of the foot unto the head, there is no soundness, wounds and confusion and lacerated sores. They have not sprinkled, neither have they been bandaged, nor was it softened with oil. Meaning like they holy convocation that we used to, our ancestors, I should say, our ancestors we got to get this straight, because a lot of these denominations, they want to link us exactly the same as the ancestors, when it's clear that our ancestors, obviously, they effed up. All right. Because of that effing up, they got us in this situation where we're at, you know, like from that third verse on, right? But that third verse also is like an answer for us who actually put our heart and effort into. That's why I don't kind of like lock it into just only one person of color, et cetera, because, you know, we done mixed, blended, you know what I mean? But the heart of the people, that's true, it's still there. That's why it says the ox knows its owner. You know what I mean? But let me finish what verse I was left on. 5. Why are you beating when you still continue to rebel? Which, it's like a sign, signal. We can't see what's going on with ourselves. We can't understand what's going on with ourselves. But is it because our people is that far gone into the world that they don't see this? You know what I mean? All right. Every head is afflicted with illness and every heart with malaise. From the sole of the foot into the head, there is no soundness, wounds, confusion, and lacerated sores. They have not sprinkled, neither have they been bandaged, nor was it softened with oil. Your land is desolate, your cities burnt with fire. Your land in your presence. Strangers devour it, and it is desolate as they're turned over the strangers. You know, you can identify with that. We don't have it. We're out of there. Our ancestors caused us to be no longer where we need to be. All right.
Right.
And what would you say? How should we do to get back there? You know, knowing that all this, you know, we have all these little afflictions and things going on. Is that like a trigger, like something that would tell us, like, look, we got to get this thing straight here. You know what I mean? Otherwise, we're
Well, if you look
dying.
at our history, I mean, we've been slowly waking up to our identity, but like babies, we've been just screaming for attention and not really doing what's important. Uh, you know, people ask me, how can you believe in a God you've never seen? Or, you know, how can you believe in this book? It's because of prophecy. It's because I believe and I see my knowledge of history and my knowledge of these scriptures and the original source language. I see fulfilled prophecy all through it. And so the people who are supposed to, at some point in history, wake up and realize who they are. Okay, the scriptures give you a roadmap, what to do to get back into his good graces and to be able to prosper and be successful as a people. Everything we've done apart from that has failed. Everything. Every time we've tried to do something, whether it be a community or business or whatever, that will benefit us as a people, not just as individuals, but as a people, has failed and will always fail because we're not in a place where it's supposed to be successful. We were not brought to the shores of America to be prosperous as a people. We were brought here to be punished. And that's what we see, but not forever. I don't, you know, the scriptures do not say that that punishment would carry on forever. There is there's light at the end of the tunnel. So the answer to your question is that people have to, number one, return to him, return to the Creator with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Keep his commandments.
Powerful.
And also, you know, obey his directives. He's telling you where to go, what to do, what to make as your priority, and then you will be successful. I believe that as long as all people stay there, and I'm talking about, you know, the lands that we were brought in those ships, as long as we stay in those places, okay, which is our enemy's backyard, we're just going to experience more of the same over and over and over.
You saying
the
same exact thing that I've been saying all along, that this thing is going to just keep recycling, and it's going to just keep going on. It might be worse than how when they say when we was in the wilderness, our ancestors was in the wilderness for 40 years and they didn't get it. It might be worse because guess what? We're just continuing to fall. You know what I mean? It's like,
we're doing everything except what he told us to do. That's why.
Yeah. I mean, we're waking up, no doubt. But as soon as we wake up,
that's why the cycle doesn't stop.
That's right. Yeah, see, now I'm beginning to say, well, why am I, if I was doing it, why am I going against you? You saying the same thing I'm saying. Not making no sense.
I told you we have more in common than we do not in common. Okay. I don't believe in Jesus Christ of the New Testament. I don't believe in any part of the New Testament. Okay, I do believe in a Messiah because we're using that word, but he's just a man to me. He's not someone you worship, not someone you pray to, not someone you sing songs to. He's just a man. Okay, he's our brother. But the truth about him has been effed up by the heathens. So you've got this narrative out there that says he's the Son of God and he must be that's all a lie. And I condemn it. And if you see me on Facebook, you see me do that over and over and over. I attack it viciously over and over and over. I don't think anyone attacks it more than I do.
You haven't met True yet.
I'm not saying you don't either, but I'm saying I make it a point to viciously attack because our people are so wrapped up in it. It's like you need a crowbar, jaws of life to pull them away from their Jesus. So like I said, we have more in common than we do.
I call it slaver's whip. Slaver's whip. It tore the hide off our ancestors. 400 or 500 years ago, tore their hides off. But the wounds are still among our people. It's crazy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then, like you said, and I agree too, when the heathen got a hold to our manuscripts and went
Exactly.
haywire,
They have it all up.
oh man, yes, 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 yes. And then, like I said, the heart got to be there to, as a unit of people, waking up at that much to want to return to him. I want to return to him. You know what I mean? Nothing more than the beautifying of ourselves by returning back to the Most High.
Yeah, we're
But
supposed to be the rulers of this world, not as floor mat, not as entertainer. We're supposed to be the ones telling folks what they can and can't do. And
mm-hmm,
until we are there, I'm never going to be happy. That's what we should be thinking about. He didn't call us to be a special people
mm-hmm,
so that other folks can be lords over us. That's just because of punishment. We're supposed to be the ones who rule this planet,
mm-hmm.
and so there's a clear roadmap for that in His Word if we just obey it. I
Absolutely.
believe in Him. I believe in Him. Since I was a child, and I've been pursuing Him since I was a child, and His name since I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
It's consumed me, my life. So no one can tell me He's not real, or that this book is a bunch of fairy tales.
Yeah.
Um, I know better. So that's been my motivation is to educate
What is
and
your
to
what is your call on like I look at a lot of people always say pride, pride, because you know what I mean they like to throw that out at me when I'm doing the thing to try to bring them to the
that's
right path.
Christianity.
Yeah, and then in
That's just
reality, it's
Christianity.
them with the pride. You know what I'm saying? They're the ones that's the pride from us. You know?
Yeah, Christianity, the slave master, they beat that into us that you have to be humble and blah blah blah, you not pride and all that crap. So anytime you're zealous or strong on a point, or you feel convicted about something, oh, you full of pride. It's just a way to basically to nullify and take the wind away from your wings. I don't let it get to me. If it's not pride, they'll find something else to say about you to
Oh
try
yeah,
to trip you up.
yeah. I've been called Satan. That's how bad it's been. I've been called everything, but trying to bring my
Yeah,
people back to the Most High. You know what I mean? What can you go
yeah,
wrong with doing that? I mean, reality. What could you be wrong for trying to bring our people back to the Most High? Because we know we all need to do this as a unit. You know what I mean? Well, obviously, we're
yeah.
going to lose some along the way. No, no doubt, no doubt. We're going to lose some along the way. But
No, yeah. Not everyone's gonna. Not everyone is going to uh, grab hold to this, and that's the sad part. A remnant, only a remnant,
mhm.
is going to respond to His word.
All right, all right. Um, like I said, this was only going to be a discussion, no type of debate thing, a peaceful discussion, and it actually kind of good, right? You would say we can agree
No,
that.
like I said, I'm glad you had me on. I was hoping that we would get on here and talk like adults and get all that Facebook crap, put that aside. Because
Mhm.
a lot of stuff I do on Facebook is just to bait, cause sensation to get started, and then hopefully it leads to something like this. We can actually have a reasonable adult conversation. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I'm very happy that you reached out.
Yeah. Well, that's really my, thing when, a lot of people misunderstand when I say, yeah, only and no idols. They love the label, oh, Torah only, Torah only. Um, you can't really say Torah only if, I mean, I go through the process like everybody else. It's just that I guess I'm not leaning towards the manipulation that they're leaning towards. You know what I mean? And everybody got their right. Am I right?
Right.
Everybody got their right. But in the long run, because of this thing, this cycle of just continuing to fail, it's time we got to get this together. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I agree.
You know what I mean?
I
I
agree.
mean,
So we have
social,
more conversation like this. It will help because folks need to,
and then
see
so
how
so
serious we are about it.
and social media itself is like almost like laden with just an open world for the heathen. And I'm not talking about the other nation heathens. I'm talking about the heathens of our people. All
Right.
this,
Yeah.
they're making it more of a problem instead of just like how we doing it right now. If they would do this the same way, humble themselves, sit down, we can work this out and get this planet back in order. Because we're going to have to get this planet back in order because the heathen ain't going to do nothing but destroy it.
No, exactly. That's the problem. Is we have to do exactly what he says if we want this to change.
Mm-hmm.
We can't make up our own playbook. You got to follow his plays. Because
That's
every
right.
time we do that, it doesn't work. Never
That's
has.
right. Right. Well,
So how do you find? All right, look, I was gonna ask you one question. How do you find?
Mm-hmm.
I know you're harvesting on social media. Are you winning people? Do you feel like you're making a dent? How do you feel since that's
Well,
your main
if you if you
arena?
if you ask me my opinion on that, I'm going to say yes. The ones that actually like let me get a chance to actually teach what I know.
Right.
Majority of the time, though, right? I'm not really getting a chance to teach. Now, my cup
Yeah,
of tea
it's
is
just
to sit there.
it's just mudslinging.
Yeah, when I get a chance to teach and they just like listening, and I'm not trying to say it to make me be the Messiah, but I'm just saying if they let me teach
Right.
and listen, and wherever I'm at wrong, to show me where I'm wrong at, fine, no problem with that.
Right.
I'm not gonna
Right.
argue with nobody on that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But all of this, like you said, mudslinging and stabbing in the back, I want to be this and that. It becomes more like, what's going on here? Just because I'm putting
Yeah.
my time in and I'm saying things that it's true and it's that not what they're used to. All of a sudden, I'm the enemy. Are you kidding me?
Right.
And I
Yeah.
always tell
Okay.
them, I say, I
I
love.
understand.
Nobody can tell me I don't love my Israel people.
Right.
I need them because I need to get, back with the Most
Yeah.
High as well as a unit. Because I am sick of this way this planet is going. I think that it might just be a remnant of us left if we don't get
Hmm.
it together. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
and there's no scripture that says that we can't all exactly get it together. It's just that it's kind of on us, individual,
Yeah.
to actually see
No,
that.
sometimes it does look like it's impossible, man. Like only a supreme being is going to be able to pull this off. Our people are just so destroyed, just so
Mhm.
into everything.
That's why I always tell them. I said the key thing is to read that Torah and get down on those knees, repent. You know the saying, repent for our ancestors, what they
Yeah,
did wrong, what we did wrong, so we
yeah,
can get back into this covenant. So we can get back into this covenant. So we can once again get to where we need to be.
right.
But you know what?
I agree.
That repenting thing, is like all out the window. It's all out the window. They don't want to do that. They don't want to do that.
No,
Nah. They
no.
want to just pull out a couple of, or I'm gonna say it, it's funny, rosary beads and blah, 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 and then all of a sudden,
Yeah,
you know what
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. Yep, yep.
That's how far from the truth as it is. You know what I mean? We are a holy, set apart people. We just gotta set ourselves apart and
Right.
let the Most High
Agreed.
do it. He's the one that's got to gather us up. He's got to be the one to clean us up. We can't turn around and say,
Agreed.
"Oh, I got this magic water. And I'm gonna pour it on this for God, and he's clean." That's not the way it goes. And Torah don't teach that.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, this was basically a kind of an introductory discussion, and I think it came out good, and I'm happy. I hope
Yeah, me
those
too.
that
I'm glad. Like I
hope that
said.
those on my side hear this and they can say, "Well, with respect, we got to respect the Ravenous Bird. We got to respect truth." You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
we may one day get together and we might be trying to get some others to follow suit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
my hope.
Mhm.
That's my prayer, brother.
All right. Well, I won't say it the way I say it. Shalom, brother. This was very good.
Shalom
Shalom.
to you and to your family.
All right.